I'm Scott Kolbo. I'm a visual artist.
I'm Ben Thomas. I'm a musician.
I'm Brian Chin. I'm a musician. Scott and I started talking about this project about 18 months ago. Scott, can you tell us a little bit about what you do, what your medium is, and how we figured out how we could do something together?
Right. So I'm primarily a drawer, I like to say. So I've spent most of my career doing drawings. Some of that's been in the realm of printmaking, but at a certain point I got really interested in technology and how mixing together handmade marks with digital marks was really interesting. So eventually that led me to video work, where I create static drawings, so charcoal drawings that a video is projected over the top of, and then stuff happens that's kind of magical and fun and interesting and different than other things I'd seen before. So Brian, I think, had seen some of those works and was kind of excited about it and wanted to try and collaborate on something. So that led us to the project, I think, that we're in now.
And I think one of the most fun part of this whole process was about trying to figure out how we were going to frame this down into some kind of show that would make sense to an audience,
Right, yeah.
that was also doable.
Mm-hmm.
I remember us talking about narrative, and I remember us talking a lot about creating essentially kind of a full-length movie type thing,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yep.
almost like an opera-ish
Mm-hmm.
kind of production.
Right.
And then we eventually kind of came down to the elements. You guys want to talk a little bit about what grabs us collectively around the idea of the elements, and why is this kind of a cool idea?
Well, it's been done so many times, so in all the different art forms, it's one of those ones where every time you come to it, it's something new, because we all experience the elements very differently. And I think it's such a primal thing where everybody, whether you're the musician or the artist or just in the audience, has a visceral feeling of interacting with the elements, so you can keep coming back and telling new stories is a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's a very universal thing, like I think what you're saying, where it's just almost all humans out there in the world have had we just connect to, these natural things, but then they're also kind of deeply poetic and mean all these other things in human cultures all over the world. So to me, that's part of why I think it's an interesting theme and a good one, and why artists have kind of used it over and over again for all kinds of reasons.
And it's hard to break down any deeper. They're elemental, they're fundamental, they're the basic material of it. So at some point, most art comes down to those things at some point anyway.
One of the things that grabbed me the most about the elements concept was when we read about Aristotle's concept of ether, which this idea of there actually being a fifth element that you can't see, that you can't touch, that describes all the mystery of the universe. And I thought that that was the piece of magic that would make the show come together, because we'd be able to pretty easily do the earth, wind, fire bit, but when it comes to ether, we're going to have to kind of create something new.
Right.
And I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, I think that was the most challenging one, probably, as the visual artist part of it, because I was unsure of how to represent that, sort of that idea, So I think musicians have it easy in almost every way, but especially, with that, because they get a chance to, it's all ethereal, and, it's like real abstract, So when you start drawing specific subject matter, that makes the ether part, I think, more challenging, sort of. So.
And I think one of the fun parts for Ben and I was to kind of divvy up workload around the elements part, but leave so much of it unknown for the ether, which is part of the aesthetic, but also challenging to us, because we're going to be doing a lot of improvisation. We're kind of pooled the resources of the whole band to generate other material for the whole show, but be able to pull it together in kind of a cohesive way for ether. But
we also used ether, even though we had a first act of the traditional primary elements, and then second act was ether. The ether we used it to edit the first material, so the promenades in between, and it also changed some of the materials. So your idea of like a quintal line that just moved up and down representing ether came to tie some of the initial elements together.
Yeah, I think it's going to hold together, and I'm looking forward to the show. You should come to the show on May 20th and May 21st.
Please do.